Today on Locked On Red Wings, after a rough 11-game stretch where Detroit won just 3 games,
we are so back.
They have now won 3 straight.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily J, a WWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scotty's host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Scotty, happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
And it almost feels unfair, right, Scotty? Like, Red Wings had played one in particular, really, really good game. And the second of which there were some problems with, but still a really, really good game overall for a 3-game win streak. And we have to break both those games down in a 30-minute episode where let's be honest, we could get a whole episode out of either of those games because it was a fun weekend here in Red Wings land.
Yeah, man. No, 2 great games. I know we talk about it off air all the time, but like during the summer, I'm my Monday shows on the Tigers are 3 games in one episode. So this is it's normal, but doesn't make it any less difficult because there's a lot of good that happened, man. Vibes are high. The boys are rolling.
I mean, that Bruins game feels like it was forever ago, right?
Yeah, it was like holiday-ish time too, which certainly doesn't help.
Obviously, because we record a day before, like we're recording this on Sunday for our Monday episode. We don't record on Friday after a game. And because that game happened at 1:00, it literally feels like you got on here and I was like, yeah, we got to talk about the Bruins game too. He's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I literally forgot that we had to recap 2 games today until about 15 minutes before we got on air.
So, I mean, what a great weekend though, nonetheless. I mean, starting with the Boston Bruins game, I mean, that is a team that to that point had only had 1 regulation loss in the season to the Detroit Red Wings in total, but the 1 came to the Red Wings. And so we talk about it. Like, you go in, obviously we're thinking, I mean, there's probably a little internal bias that you think the Red Wings are most likely going to lose that game. I felt they were most likely going to lose that game because the Bruins are a really good team. They're rolling. But again, the Red Wings just go out there and play like such a complete team game. I really felt like they carried over that philosophy they had against the Devils of creating low event hockey, keeping the shots for the most part to the outside, and just bringing a lot of pressure to force turnovers. So, I mean, because the Bruins had 11 giveaways in this game, that it really helped the Red Wings get on top of the Boston Bruins. And to that point, I know they lost the very next day to the New York Rangers in a pretty ugly fashion, but the Red Wings just did so well to bring it to the Boston Bruins and punch them in the mouth. And when Boston punched them, they punched them back in the mouth. It was only the second time all year the Bruins had given up 5 goals in a single game. And again, the only other time against the Detroit Red Wings. So that is such a big momentum builder and confidence booster for this Red Wings squad after a really good game against the Devils 2 nights before.
Yeah, I really do think that like snuffing out momentum was the name of the game for like the Bruins. Like every single time they had something go their way, the Red Wings almost immediately responded and kind of evened the playing field or just like took a step forward. I think something you said in there, I think is really important. And it's something that when we brought Lalonde in, it was, what's his philosophy going to be? What's his X's and O's like strategy going to be for this team going forward? And it was a lot of not necessarily like pure defensive. I don't know if I'd call it that, but I think that it is low event hockey. And that's something that you just said in there. I think that the last 3 games has like kind of perfectly epitomized what Lalonde is like trying to accomplish here. And obviously the Wings aren't going to win out. And like they're going to have, like bumps in the road. Not everything is all just like sunshine and rainbows because of a 3-game win streak. But I do think that in a vacuum, these 3 games is exactly what Newsy's been trying to accomplish since game 1 here, and what he wants to on an even more on an even like bigger scale, what he wants this team to look like going forward. It's not the flashiest, prettiest brand of hockey, but it gives you a fighting chance no matter who you play every single night. And the goal is to, well, the goal, no pun intended, the objective is to I was going to say create as few events as possible, but then like not create any events. Like that is the goal. The fewest amount of events that you are giving up, whether it's super high danger, medium danger, whatever, that is the philosophy going forward. And I really think that they have just like dang near perfectly epitomized that strategy and that mindset so far in these last 3 games.
And I mean, to emphasize that point, in the entirety of the game, the Bruins only had 4 high danger attempts, 4 high danger shots in the entirety of the game. And only one of those came at even strength. So the other 3 came on special teams.
Yeah.
The Red Wings only gave up 1 even strength high danger shot against the Boston Bruins. That is incredible systems hockey if I've ever seen it. And, you know, during that, it's crazy because we talked about it. They were 3-5-3. And we had this, you know, a week ago, we were having a conversation about how this team's frustrating and it doesn't seem like it's like this team's got it. And now suddenly they win 3 straight again. And I know you were talking about they're suddenly back up in the top ends of every category.
Yeah.
The power play got going in this game as well. And they had one goal against the New Jersey Devils, 1 power play goal against the New Jersey Devils. That was the Moritz Seider one that was deflected by the Devils defender. They had 3 in this game. Right off the bat, JT Compher deflects a Shayne Gostisbere, and oh my God, Shayne Gostisbere had himself a weekend. Great 6 points this weekend. Specifically, we'll talk about the Minnesota Wild game in a little bit. But, I mean, Gostisbere redirected that shot by JT Compher. And Dylan Larkin, I'm sorry, there's only 2 power play goals in this game, not 3. But then Dylan Larkin's power play goal, which is, again, one of those punchbacks I was talking about. Heinen had just scored to bring it within 1 in the 3rd period. And I'm thinking, oh, no, don't blow this game. And then Larkin from Compher and Shayne Gostisbere, the same trio pretty much, came and answered back in the 3rd period. So that power play finally got rolling. So, like, creating low event hockey and taking advantage of your special teams, like, that is the recipe for success for this Red Wings team. Because let's be honest, while it was nice during that 3-5-3 stretch that they were keeping the Corsi and the 5-on-5 metrics close, this team is going to find its most amount of their success on the special teams.
Yeah, well, and that's, you know, you mentioned it a little bit there, but like obviously the special teams, both sides of the special teams, by the way, the penalty kill it also has been really solid in these last 3 games. And yeah, like we were talking about it off air before, but it's so wild how quickly things can change in this league. You know, like a week ago at this time, we were doing, you know, like how worried are we? How worried should people be? Like everybody, you know, like reply with how worried you are. And now, like when you look at like team stats, the Wings, just after a 3-game win streak, have now catapulted themselves back to being, and this is currently time this recording, there's games still going on. Obviously, there's going to be games on Monday that'll change a little bit too, but 6th in goals for a game, 12th in goals against, that's 7th in point differential, 10th in power play percentage, back to a top 10 team in the power play, 15th in penalty kill, top half of the NHL. And back to 12th in save percentage after the last 3 games. The Wings are back to a team 900 save percentage, which they haven't even sniffed in weeks. Like it's so fascinating how quickly this is this league, baby. It's crazy how quick things change.
I know Jay Fresh posted a graphic earlier in the day on Sunday about the top teams in the league to the worst teams in the league in goals saved above expected, team goals saved above expected. And the Red Wings are still in plus territory. And I was like, how is that even possible? Because all we've seen was kind of shoddy goaltending with sprinkles of great starts. But I mean, in this weekend, in this 3-game stretch as a whole, I mean, we've seen 2 great games from Alex Lyon, especially the game against Minnesota. But I mean, credit to Ville Husso, who's had a pretty rough start to the season overall. He played great against Minnesota Wild. I think a save percentage of .927 in that game. I mean, the Red Wings did a good job again of making sure the shots he faced.
Boston, right?
Boston, yes.
Yeah.
Of making sure they did a good job making sure the shots he faced were like pretty low risk, low danger.
Yeah.
But I mean, he still made 25 saves in that game. He showed up really played well.
Yeah, like you know, take what's in front of you, you know.
Yeah. You don't apologize for victories, right?
Right, yeah, like take what's handed to you, man. Like if that the goal of this defense should to consistently create, again, like I guess I'm just kind of reiterating and talking in circles, but like the goal should be to have the least amount of events against you. High danger, medium danger, whatever. Just least amount, low event hockey. Have your goalie do his job. Walk out of there with a win, man.
Absolutely.
Keep it simple.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, wow, to try to mesh all those words together into one, it doesn't work so well. And when we return, we will continue the conversation about both these games. Great weekend for the Detroit Red Wings. So stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. If you run a small business, you're an army of one, but you still need a CPA, bookkeeper, separate payroll solution, and more. Let Collective take care of that paperwork while you take care of the business. Collective is the #1 financial solution for freelancers, contractors, and self-employed entrepreneurs that let you focus on your passion, not your paperwork. Collective knows that if your business of one makes over $80,000 a year, you will find the most value from their services. Join the thousands of solopreneurs who have saved an average of $10,000 per year on taxes with their structure. Right now, Collective is offering a 1-month free and no onboarding fee when you go to collective.com/LockedOnNHL and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. That's a $550 value for free when you go to collective.com/LockedOnNHL and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. One last time. That's collective.com/LockedOnNHL and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, I also want to just give a quick shout out to the forward lines. And like, I guess not so much the forward lines, and this is a weekend as a whole, like even the 3-game stretch, but just Derek Lalonde and his bravery in just absolutely getting the blender out. I mean, we've seen these Joe Veleno's top line winger, but what's crazy is, and I feel like as I'm watching all 3 of these games, those wingers continually rotate. And for the most part, these last 2 games, we have seen a consistency in those forward lines for sure. Like Joe Veleno's pretty much always on the top line. DeBrincat's almost always on the second line. But I feel like he got the blender out and it's worked really well. Getting off Compher's wing, letting Compher kind of take hold and be that guy, that center for that second line has worked out wonderfully all season long, but particularly after Copp got off his wing. Compher has been fantastic. I mean, it takes courage to break up DeBrincat and Larkin and really blend up the lines, but it clearly wasn't working. And I mean, obviously defense wasn't working as well. And we were criticizing the fact that the defensive pairings really didn't see much shakeup, although they've played really good of late. So it shows how much we know, right? But the offensive lines have been producing a ton. I mean, that's 4 goals, 5 goals, 5 goals and 4 goals in back-to-back games where the forward lines have completely been different than how they were the first part of the season.
Yeah, man. And one of the reasons why I don't know if welcomed is the right word, but we were fine with the shakeup was just because of the lack of like depth scoring down the lineup. And that's something we've been talking about for like seasons now, right? Like this is not a new issue with this hockey team. Something we talked about a lot last year. They didn't have a high-end goal scorer or depth scoring the last couple of years. Now, like you go out, you get DeBrincat. The thought is that you have that high-end guy, but you still need depth scoring. And I really think that this blender situation that the team is in, they kind of like the coaching staff at least kind of gets excited about. Like I compare it to, and like we don't have to go down like a baseball rabbit hole here, but like I compare it to like a bullpen game, right? Like as a fan, you usually look at a bullpen game and you go, oh my goodness, like we're just throwing away the game, we're punting, like we're gonna lose. The Tigers won like every single bullpen game they did this year because AJ Hinch loved it because he could play all the matchups he wanted. I feel like this is somewhat similar to that, where it's like, you know what, Newsy's kind of like able to play matchups a little bit more and gets to go, you know what, instead of set lines, I'm going to see who they put out on the ice. And then, you know, line change accordingly to like strengths and weaknesses. And like, you kind of get to go on like who's got the hot stick right now in the, you know, halfway through the second period, and who do I want to give more ice time because they look good. Like, I feel like it's somewhat, obviously it's not a 1-for-1 comparison, but I feel like it's somewhat similar in that regard. And I really think that not only is the coaching staff thriving, and clearly in the last 3 games has done a really good job of utilizing everybody and putting them in like the situations that get the most out of them, but that takes like an open mind as a team too. Like, I give a lot of credit to the players. Like, that's something that obviously it's like some blending is just like a part of the game of hockey, but having it be as fluid as it's been is something that it really takes like acceptance and like a team kind of mentality to pull off on a consistent basis. So I agree with you. I really want to give credit to like everybody involved. And like, again, obviously that we're going to face our lumps again, and we'll probably hit another, you know, rough patch at some point here. But for now, it's really nice to see everybody realizing, okay, something needs to change. We're down to change. Let's just like have this kind of blender thing and see what happens. I think that's a sign of a healthy and good team and coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, you look at these 2 games over the weekend, right? Like, first of all, I know Joe Veleno didn't get rewarded with any points against the Boston Bruins, but he had a hell of a game.
Shoot the puck, brother.
Dude, okay, yes.
Shoot the puck.
If we're going to criticize Joe Veleno, when you get the puck in the slot, like in the hash marks in front of the goaltender, shoot the puck, don't look for a pass. But outside of that,
and rip it, my dog. Golly, he's having such a good year, and like he still looks good out there. I'm glad he's getting top 6 minutes. I think he's deserved it. But goodness gracious, man, in the Wild game, he had like 2 or 3, like where he had a great zone entry, got the puck into like a high danger opportunity, and then just like tried to pass it to somebody else.
But he looked really, I do think in the Bruins game, he looked fantastic. He didn't get rewarded with a score sheet, but like to go from 4th line C and what we were considering your 13th forward, like not even getting consistent ice time on a prove it deal where you're making less than $900,000 a year, to being a top line winger and looking comfortable on Dylan Larkin's wing with that speed that he has. I mean, that's incredible. I've loved what I've seen out of Joe Veleno, and it's worked with the other guys too. Like DeBrincat had a goal and an assist against the Bruins. He picked the pocket of, I'm going to butcher it again. I'm really sorry. And it's funny. I heard the name during the broadcast. I was like, stick with it. But Poitras? Yeah. I'm going to butcher that. I'm really sorry.
On the second one, I think you got it.
Hopefully Bruins fans don't take my head off. I can barely pronounce the names of the players on my own team. But
I have trouble with Larkin, dude. Yeah.
DeBrincat picked his pocket, went down and scored. He got an assist on another goal too. So, I mean, he had a good game. Larkin had goals in back-to-back games. Lucas Raymond with a beautiful assist against the Wild, as well as an assist against the Bruins. I mean, the shakeup has worked. The guys that you want to produce are beginning to produce again. So, I mean, it's credit where credit's due. I was very skeptical when they got the line blender out for the forward lines, and it's worked. Also, just a side note, what is with the social media team on the Detroit Red Wings constantly tweeting out that the Christian Fischer line is line 2 on the starting lineup pictures, the graphics?
He's a dog.
Like, and so like I've been like, okay, is this intentional? Like, are they trolling us? Because I checked the box scores and they're always 4th line minutes. They get the least amount of minutes. And I know like those graphics don't really mean anything in terms of like lines 1 through 4. But why is the Christian Fischer line consistently the last 2 games been listed as line 2?
It's the dog line.
I guess. And Andrew Copline's listed as line 4, and I'm like, that's not how the minutes have been dispersed. I don't know. It's sidebar. I just wanted to bring it up. It's wild to me. Speaking of the Wild, we'll talk about that game next on Locked On Red Wings. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Next thing you know, Shayne Gostisbere could have 82 points in 82 games. He's 1 behind point per game now after this crazy weekend he had. And the Red Wings could hoist the Stanley Cup. And you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is the #1 choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can get 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you need to do is pick whether or not studs like Shayne Gostisbere or Lucas Raymond, or let's see here, who else
Christian
we got?
Fisher.
Who's cooking right now? David Perron will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. And okay, calm down. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Red Wings fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKDOWNNHL and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKDOWNNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, you and I have been talking mostly about the Bruins / like overall vibes after these last 2 games. But let's talk a little bit specifically about the Minnesota game, because there's a lot to break down in that game as well. I think overall, it's weird. So the Red Wings got super heavily outshot attempted and super heavily outshot in this game. But I never really felt like the Red Wings were on their heels in this hockey game. And I think that's because there's a carryover of that good low event hockey that they've been doing. Now, obviously, 38 shot attempts against, getting outshot attempted as much as they did, because I think the Minnesota Wild had like a 55% share, a 60% share of 5-on-5 shot attempts. You're going to see more high danger shot attempts. But I think still overall, they did a good job of keeping the most dangerous or preventing dangerous opportunities in front of Alex Lyon. And Alex Lyon in his 3rd game with the Red Wings starting continues to get better in each game. He looked really good in this one.
Yeah, even the one goal he gave up was a double doink. Like, you know what I mean? The one goal he gave up was it was a shot that bounced off of Sider's back, then off of I forget who it was, one of the forwards on the Wild, off of his hand, and then it redirected twice and then went perfectly around Lyon and in the back of the net. Like it was an accident. Like and that was the only goal against in this hockey game. I thought that he looked great again, and like, let's keep it rolling. Like, let's keep giving him playing time, man. Like, I really don't think that this is rocket science. Like, is he gonna maintain like this save percentage throughout the rest of the season? No. But you have 3 goalies. Let's keep using them. You know what I mean? Like
I mean,
wow, he had a 974 in this game. Like, just like, you know what I mean?
37
like,
saves.
Keep going with the hot hand, man. It's if you're gonna have 3, I think it was so ridiculous that it took this long to like actually use all 3, and I'm glad that they finally are.
I mean, and you can see here on the heat map that the Red Wings definitely did allow more inside right in front of Alex Lyon than they have in previous games, but overall still did a very good job of kind of keeping the dangerous stuff to like the blue line or along the boards.
Yeah.
It didn't generate a lot of scoring attempts on their own.
Still not a lot like in the high slot and like really up outside of directly in front of the net, which again, we like is obviously not awesome, but like you draw a straight line from goalie, to the blue line. There's not much past that.
Yeah, I mean, the high slot area, there's nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Low slot right in front of Husso. Obviously, there's some. Husso, I'm sorry, not Husso. Alex Lyon did face 7 high danger shot attempts in this game, allowing a goal on just one of them. And that would have been, this is at 5-on-5. And obviously, Kaprizov's goal came out on the power play, but that was like right around the right circle here. And so, like, they kept the Minnesota Wild shot attempts. They had 20 low danger shot attempts in this game. And so that's just to emphasize my point that they did a fantastic job of continuing to insulate the goaltending. And if you're going to be this team, Alex Lyon's been great. And I'm definitely not trying to kind of take away from anything that he's been doing, because I mean, he still made 37 saves in this game. He was absolutely stellar. But this is a team that just they need to insulate their goaltending, and they've done that in the last 3 games, and they've made it significantly easier on their goalies to make the saves that they have to make. And to Alex Lyon's credit, I think he's been the best so far at doing this one thing, Scotty. You ready for this one thing that Alex Lyon's been doing better than any of the other two goalies on this roster? Preventing rebounds. And Mickey Redmond brought that up on the broadcast as well. Credit to him for pointing it out. Alex Lyon was a black hole in this game. He did not give rebounds up. And that goes so far into preventing further high danger scoring chances. So while the Red Wings did a good job of keeping most of those opportunities to the outside or on the blue line, Alex Lyon is helping himself out by just absorbing these. Now, I don't think he's going to continue to be the best goalie in the NHL throughout the rest of the season. I think at some point he's going to, I don't want to say the word, but regress a little bit. But right now, he has been so good for the Detroit Red Wings, and you keep riding that hot hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I don't think it's like a crazy, like, hot take. I think, I think you just keep using him. Obviously, Husso had a solid game, a good game against the Bruins as well. If you, they're going to go back to Husso. Obviously, that's the guy that they plan on being the starter. And and you can kind of do like a hot hand situation between Reimer and Lyon. And right now, that's should be a lot of Alex Lyon until proven otherwise. So, man, I thought he was good. I thought the defense was good. I completely agree with you. Yeah, boys are buzzing.
Boys are absolutely buzzing. Shayne Gostisbere, absolutely insane in this one as well. 4 points, empty netter to seal the deal at the very end, but an assist on each of the other 3 goals. And two of those were power play goals as well. The Red Wings have scored 6 power play goals in this 3-game win streak. The power play is just absolutely back. They figured it out, it looks like. And in this one, it seems to be feed David Perron, which is basically what they did all of last year. And it worked last year, so it's working again this year. He has his 300th career goal as well. Shayne Gostisbere feeds Lucas Raymond. Lucas Raymond makes a phenomenal move at the top of the circle to get around 2 defenders, feed David Perron, backdoor, just beauty of a goal. And then Dylan Larkin, that goal, second David Perron goal would not have happened without Dylan Larkin's second effort on the faceoff. And his goal wouldn't have happened without his second effort following his own shot. So Dylan Larkin's motivation for this game, or keys to this game, was second efforts, clearly. Got that puck back to Shayne Gostisbere, who again found David Perron for his 300th career goal. Just a lot to really like in this game, man. I'm loving this 3-game win streak. I'm loving being third at the Atlantic Division. I'm loving being in the thick of things, over a quarter of the way into the season.
Yeah, 100%. Look, this is not far off from what we wanted, like as far as standings wise, right? Like when we think back to what you and I said, at least, can't speak for everybody, but like to what you and I said going into the season, it was like, just be in the hunt, be in the thick of things. Don't, no one expects this team to go out there and be, like what the Bruins have done so far this season. Obviously that was not the expectation, but don't like fall flat on your face and fail to live up to expectations either. Like go out there and be, one of the teams fighting for a wild card spot, be one of those, right in the thick of like the middle of the pack of the best division in hockey is about as good as we expected. And that's where they're at so far after American Thanksgiving, which is
and it wasn't a perfect game against the Minnesota Wild. Like, I'm not in love with the fact that they got so heavily dominated from the second period on. The first period, the Red Wings played really well. They played really good hockey at 5-on-5 in the first.
On net until like 11 minutes into the game.
But periods 2 and 3, the Minnesota Wild definitely took over, and that's why they ended up with a
second period, especially.
Yeah, like a 60% share in the 5-on-5 attempts, 54% share in the 5-on-5 attempts by the end of the game. But they did a really good job of taking advantage of the Minnesota Wild's weaknesses. The Minnesota Wild have the 30th team ranked save percentage in the league. Philip Gustafson's not been very good.
Their 7th straight loss, and I think they're 0-7-1 in their last 8.
Yeah, something
not
like
going
that.
Great, man. For a team that just paid some people and had some decent expectations after years and years and years of being like the memeable mediocre team, they finally get over the hump and have a couple of pretty good seasons, and now they're really, really struggling. So,
but also, how could you not score 2 power play goals against this Minnesota Wild's penalty kill? I mean, they brought it up on the broadcast. They play a very passive penalty kill. They play the diamond, which is something I played in house hockey because it was the easiest thing to teach players. They just stand around and let you pass around the perimeter until you find a lane. of course they're going to have the league's worst penalty kill and the 30th ranked team save percentage when you just let teams have the puck. And
Yeah.
I know the penalty kill, you don't want to overcommit and take yourself out of position, you got yourself a guy short in the danger areas, but you have to learn how to pressure and when to pressure. Like this system that they're running, it's in the NHL is going to result in the worst ranked penalty kill because this is a offensive minded league. So it does not, I think, bode well for the current NHL, that I'm not surprised in the least that this is how it ended up in this game. Red Wings knew the game plan. They knew that Minnesota Wild were middle of the pack in terms of Corsi, Fenwick, expected goals, actual goals, all that. They just knew that if they can hold their own in 5-on-5 and then take advantage of the power play, then they would win this game. And they absolutely completed that task today.
100%. Yeah. Stayed the course. Again, like we've talked about it really a lot over the last 3 or 4 games. Just like execution of game plan. And I think that, again, I started off the show with it. We'll end the show on it too. Like that, they have kind of perfectly done that over these last 3 games.
Yeah. I mean, we're already a little over 30, but real quick, JT Compher's been amazing.
Dude, I love him. I know that like that I've been kind of a slappy, but like he's he's obviously not a guy that like you put on any line he's going to raise the ceiling a ton, but he's a floor raiser, man. He goes out there and he plays sound defense. He makes good passes, like consistent good passes, and for a team that's struggling mightily in the faceoff circle this season, he gives you a little bit of that as well. I cannot say enough good things about JT Compher. I think he's been a fantastic addition to this hockey team.
So he and Gostisbehere are second and third in points amongst free agent acquisitions in the NHL this season, only behind O'Reilly of the Nashville Predators. Yeah. So JT Compher is, this isn't updated yet, so I'm doing this math in my head, so please forgive me, but Compher with an assist in this game gives him 17 points in 20 games played. That's 4th on the team. And Shayne Gostisbere with a 4-point day against the Minnesota Wild gives him 18 points in 19 games, 3rd on the team in total points. So, I mean, those are 2 free agent acquisitions that have paid absolute dividends for the Detroit Red Wings so far early in the season. So I was definitely super cautious, or skeptical is a better word, cautiously optimistic. Let's say that. Cautiously optimistic with the JT Compher acquisition, because of the Cop had kind of burned us a little bit in the first year and hasn't honestly had that great of a start to this year either. Only 7 points in 19 or 20 games played is not great, but JT Compher has been worth the money so far. He is the second line center. We thought we were getting an Andrew Copp. So I've been super impressed with him.
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously he's not going to be like the huge goal scorer, but like out of a non-top line center, how much more do you want than a guy who's again consistently making really good passes, getting a lot of assists, playing good defense, and is one of your better face-off men? Like that's that. When it comes to non-top line, obviously, then you'd want him to score more. But he is certainly you could do a lot worse as a middle 6 center for sure.
But that's exactly it. Like, you nailed it. He doesn't score a lot, so you don't really realize how much production he's actually doing. We think of him as this defense first, second line center. Like, he's going to be the first guy back on the back check, which he should. He's a defenseman, or a center rather, and he's going to play the penalty kill. But you don't realize that he's 4th on the team in points, and then he's nearly a point per game. Like, he's been so sneakily good at putting points on the point sheet. It's been a fun 3 games. It's been a fun 3 games. And the last thing, very final thing, Scotty, for some reason in this game against the Minnesota Wild, Moritz Seider had the least amount of minutes out of any defenseman. And I know he took 3 penalties in this game, so that's going to obviously play a role in the minutes he receives versus the minutes his teammates receive when he's in the box. But he only came away with 16-22 in this game total. The next lowest was Olli Maatta at 17-12. So, and even before he took the second and third penalty, he was well behind his peers. I wonder, I mean, I literally don't have an idea why this is the case, especially because he and Gostisbehere were your top pair. I'm just wondering if maybe they're trying to send a message to him, like thinking that his play hasn't been up to par, but he played really good in this game against the Wild too. Like, I thought he was they obviously the delay of game penalty, that was a really good play he made, and it just went out at like knocking that puck out of the air, out of the slot was really good play. Just went out, so it was a delay of game. Going after Hartman, I don't blame him. Whatever, you're protecting DeBrincat after Hartman slew-footed him. I don't have a problem with at least 2 of the 3 penalties he took in this game. So I don't know what the deal was, if they're trying to like send a message to him, or maybe it was just like a pairing chemistry thing. I don't know. But Gostisbehere put 4 points, and that was his partner in this game. So I don't know what the deal was.
Yeah, honestly, I think that part of it might have just been like protecting him after that whole situation. Not protecting him like physically, protecting him from like stripes, like protecting him from the ref. I feel like that might maybe has something to do with it. But like, yeah, I don't know if it carries over into multiple games, then we'll talk about it more. But for now, I kind of just take it as a game to game. Like that was a physical game. He was one of the reasons that it was kind of physical. Obviously, went after another player. Yeah, I think it probably had more to do with that than anything.
Also, Ruffing was making some really weak calls in this game, like some really weak calls.
Yeah, there's a couple.
And I'm not afraid to admit that. It worked out for the Red Wings a couple times. I mean, that's how Perron got his second power play goal, was on the tripping to Lucas Raymond when he...
Well, yeah, Minnesota was clearly frustrated, understandably so, on a couple of them.
So, but anyways, that'll do it. We're already over time. Scotty, any final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
We ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.